Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's take up the analysis of today's The Hindu newspaper by first looking at a few editorials. Let's begin by looking at a column from page number 6 that deals with the new farm laws. In this column, the writers evaluate the impact of the new farm laws on the farmers, and according to them, the radical reforms that are being brought in by the new farm laws are more like a shock treatment for the agriculture sector, and they argue that the new laws disproportionately impact the interests of the farmers. They even compare the radical new farm laws with the LPG reforms of 1991, and they say that while the LPG reforms were needed, the sudden and rapid changes brought in by the LPG reforms severely affected the industry and led to the closure of a number of industries, even leading to massive loss of jobs, and they refer to it as the second deindustrialization. By comparing the radical shift being brought in by the new farm laws with the post-1991 reforms, they say that the new farm laws will also end up having the same impact on agriculture. See, it is a well-accepted fact within the agriculture sector and even with the farmers that the current system of agriculture marketing that is based on APMC yards and mandi policies, they are clearly outdated. The concept of trading agriculture produce through the APMC yards and regulating agriculture marketing through mandi policies was introduced from the 1960s onwards, and these laws and policies have clearly outlived their utility. Under the APMC mandi system, there have been several malpractices, and the middlemen and the commission agents have clearly exploited the farmers. So in order to cut the role of the middlemen and increase farmers' income, the new farm laws introduced by the government introduces a radical shift in agriculture marketing. These new laws, they open up the agricultural produce to free market forces, and it allows the farmer to sell his produce outside the physical boundaries of a APMC yard. This allows the farmers to directly tie up with corporates and food processing industries to sell their produce directly, and it also provides for contract farming in order to define the partnership between the farmer and the corporate entity. Then, in order to incentivize the corporates and the food processing industries, the new laws allow for unlimited holding of food and agricultural produce except for in special circumstances. So basically, the new laws introduce a radical shift in the way in which agriculture marketing is conducted in order to promote efficiency by reducing food wastage and by promoting diversification of crops. And it also seeks to increase farmers' income by eliminating the role of the middlemen, by allowing the farmers to directly trade with the corporates. So in the context of these new farm laws, farmers have expressed three particular concerns. Their first concern is with regard to the manner in which the price of production would be calculated for procurement by the corporates. While the corporates and the industries are directly procuring the crops from the farmers want the price of production to be calculated by taking into account not just the cost of production but also by adding a reasonable markup price. This is because the farmers want the high input cost involved in production to be taken into account. While their crops are being procured, the farmers, they want the corporates and the industries to consider a reasonable markup price on the actual cost of production in order to take into account the expenses and the challenges involved in production. The farmers are worried that direct exposure to corporates and industries will lead to price fluctuation, and hence they want this price fluctuation to be kept to the minimum. Next, the farmers are also concerned about any possible interference and exploitation from government officials, from lawyers who represent the corporates and the industries, and as well as the representatives of the industry whom they will have to interact with while they are signing and following the contracts that they might have entered into. So in short, the radical changes introduced by the new farm laws in agriculture marketing establishes a direct relationship between the farmers and the corporate entities. However, a genuine concern that has been expressed by the farmers, which has even been acknowledged by the authors, is that this relationship is clearly an unequal relationship. See, currently, farmers are quite comfortable in dealing with the MSP-based APMC mandi system, even though this form of agriculture marketing has a number of flaws. because for the farmers, this is a known devil that they are dealing with. To an extent, they are aware of the malpractices that are carried out by the middlemen and the commission agents. And whenever any major dispute arises or whenever they have major concerns, they can approach their local leaders to get these issues resolved. So clearly, the MSP-based APMC Mandi system operates in a local context, and this is a system that the farmers are more familiar with. They know what challenges to expect, and they even have avenues through which their grievances could be addressed. But under the new laws, the free markets that are being introduced would be at the national level, and large corporates and industries who not only have a national presence but also a global presence would be directly interacting with the farmers. And since a majority of the farmers in the country are small and marginal farmers, they do not know what to expect, and they fear that the corporates would exploit the larger bargaining power that they enjoy as compared to the weaker bargaining power of the small and the marginal farmers. Then to keep the corporates under check and prevent the exploitation of farmers by the large industries, the new farm laws should have provided for the establishment of a regulatory authority, but the lack of any such provision is a cause for grave concern. See, in order to completely understand the concerns of the farmers, we need to look at how agriculture marketing operates in the real world. For now, the government has promised that the MSP-based procurement will continue and it will coexist parallelly with the open market system. But however, in the short term, we can clearly predict that the open markets will offer better prices for the farmers, probably way higher than the MSP, and such procurement by the industry at higher prices will definitely increase the income of the farmers, and it will push more farmers to sell in the open market and end their dependency on MSP. While in the short term, this might seem to be advantageous for the farmers, in the medium to long term, the excessive or complete dependency of the farmers on the large industries might lead to the creation of monopolies, and this would lead to an unequal relationship between the farmers and the corporates. See, it is quite possible that once a monopoly is established by the corporates and once MSP becomes irrelevant, the big industries could exploit their higher bargaining power, and they could either reduce the prices all of a sudden based on market demand, and they could even decline to buy the produce from the farmers by citing quality issues, and they could even defer or default on their payments. But farmers, on the other hand, will not have the luxury of time and to hold on to their produce until the market conditions are ideal, because they incur a huge cost in transportation and other logistics, and they would be eager to sell off their produce in order to prevent any wastage of the harvest. Since the new farm laws allow unlimited holding, the corporates in the larger industries could build up a large stock when the prices are low, and they could refuse to buy from the farmers when the prices are higher. And also, since the industries have better logistics with regard to transportation, warehousing and cold storage, they could hold on to their stocks for a longer time, and this guarantees them a price protection, while the same would not be available for the farmers, and they would essentially be placed at the mercy of the larger industries. Then the industries, since they are few in number, they could easily form cartels in order to fix the prices, whereas farmers, who are in the millions, they won't be able to form a unified organization in order to resist any possible exploitation by the corporates. Then upon this, the corporates could use their higher bargaining power to hire all sorts of legal aid in order to strictly enforce the contracts against the farmers. Whereas a regular small and marginal farmer won't even be able to understand the complexities of language and the complexities of law, and this would work to the advantage of the corporates, who would be backed by a strong legal team. Now let's take up a column from page number 7 that evaluates the changing contours of the bilateral relationship between India and the United Kingdom. This column has been published in the context of the Republic Day invite that was sent out by Prime Minister Modi to Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson to grace the occasion of India's Republic Day as its chief guest. See, every year during the Republic Day parade, India has this practice of inviting a prominent foreign dignitary as the chief guest for the event. This invitation that India sends out every year during the Republic Day holds a lot of symbolic value as far as Indian diplomacy is concerned. See, in the world of diplomacy and international relations, Symbolic gestures hold a lot of value as they send out a strong message with regard to the priorities being given in a country's foreign policy. Take for example the symbolic message that Prime Minister Modi sent out during his swearing-in ceremony in 2014. While he was being sworn in as India's Prime Minister in 2014, he sent out an invite to all the SAARC leaders and followed it up by launching the Neighbourhood First policy of India, thereby sending out a symbolic gesture that India would be prioritizing its relations with its neighbouring countries. Similarly, the Republic Day invite that India sends out every year holds a lot of symbolic value, and it signals the priority that India would be giving to that country in the coming year. This decision related to the Republic Day invite is left to the sole discretion of the Prime Minister, as the Prime Minister has always been seen as the guiding force behind India's foreign policy. Even though the Ministry of External Affairs is the nodal ministry for handling India's foreign policy, it has always been the Prime Minister who is seen as the final decision maker with regard to India's foreign policy initiatives. This pivotal role of the Prime Minister in India's foreign policy has remained consistent since the days of Prime Minister Nehru all the way up to Prime Minister Modi. So choosing the chief guest for the Republic Day parade is a priority event in India's foreign policy, and this key decision has always been left to the sole discretion of the Prime Minister. It is known that while deciding upon the chief guest invite, the Prime Minister doesn't usually consult with his cabinet ministers or even with his senior advisors such as the Foreign Secretary or the National Security Advisor. Instead, the decision is left to the personal discretion of the Prime Minister, and hence the Republic Day invite sends out a strong symbolic message with regard to the priority that India would be giving to that particular country in the coming year. But interestingly, under Prime Minister Modi, over the last 6 years, the Republic Day invite has always been sent out to large major powers and Western countries, and as well as to major powers which are seen to be in the camp of the Western countries. For example, Prime Minister Modi's Republic Day invite has gone out to countries such as the United States, France, United Arab Emirates, all the leaders of the ASEAN grouping, Brazil, and now the United Kingdom. So this, according to the writer, clearly displays a Western tilt in Prime Minister Modi's diplomacy. But however, unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the rapid spread of the new mutant strain in UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has expressed his inability to take part in India's Republic Day celebrations. But this doesn't take away the fact that India would be looking to prioritize its relations with UK in the coming year. So in this context, it's important to understand the defining aspects of the India-UK relationship. First and foremost, India and the United Kingdom share a historical relationship because of their shared colonial past. And now that Britain's exit from the European Union has been formalized and even a trade agreement has been signed between Britain and the European Union, it becomes all the more important for India and UK to step up their economic and strategic engagement, and as well as build upon their people-to-people relations by focusing on their interests of mutual concern. The strong people-to-people relations between the two countries is a direct outcome of the shared colonial past, and as a result, the Indian diaspora has a very strong presence in the UK today. It is estimated that around 1.5 million persons of Indian origin currently reside in Britain, and many of them occupy very influential positions as well. In the current British Parliament, there are around 15 MPs who are of Indian origin, and within the current British cabinet, there are 3 high-ranking cabinet ministers, including the finance minister and the home minister, who are of Indian origin. So it's quite clear that the Indian diaspora in Britain enjoy a very influential position, and hence people-to-people relations are a very important aspect of the bilateral relationship. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the tourist inflow between the two countries was also very high, and roughly 500,000 Indian tourists were travelling to Britain, and around 1 million British tourists were coming to India every year. Then upon this, we have thousands of Indian students who apply to study in British universities every year, and lakhs of Indian professionals, especially from the services sector, choose to reside and work in Britain. So naturally, ensuring their well-being and leveraging their influence is a priority area for Indian diplomacy, and hence building upon our people-to-people relations is a very important component of the bilateral relationship. Then ties between India and UK is also of strategic importance because both the countries are known to cooperate in domains such as defense, including defense production, import of British defense equipment into India, joint military exercises, etc. Both the countries cooperate very closely in the security domain, and they even have intelligence sharing with regard to counter-terrorism, maritime security and countering piracy, especially in the Indian Ocean region. Then upon this, India and UK would be looking for strategic coordination at the United Nations, especially for the coming 2 years, because both India and UK would be members of the UN Security Council. The UK obviously holds a permanent seat at the UNSC as one of the members of the P5, and beginning this year, India has also entered the UNSC as a non-permanent member for the next 2 years. The growing profile of this relationship can be gauged from the fact that 6 major agreements were signed in 2015 when Prime Minister Modi travelled to UK. Several more agreements were signed in 2018 as well when the two leaders interacted, and these agreements stretch across several domains including cybersecurity, investments, healthcare, education, renewable energy, and then of course trade and commerce. Now that a formal trade agreement has been worked out between Britain and EU, and now that Britain has formally exited the EU, it becomes all the more important for India to secure its trade and economic interests with both Britain and the European Union. But this is where several challenges will arise for India, because see, India has already been negotiating a free trade agreement with the European Union known as the Bilateral Trade and Investment Agreement. But these negotiations have stretched on for several years, and one of the biggest challenges during these negotiations came from the demands that were being raised by UK while it was still a member of the European Union. The free trade agreement between India and EU has not materialized even now, because back then UK and several other European countries were insisting that India should bring down the duties and tariffs, especially in the automobile sector, for wines and spirits, and as well as across several industries of the services sector, including finance, banking, insurance, legal services, accountancy, etc. Because these are the domains where European countries have a predominant position, and the UK in particular is seen as a leader in the field of automobiles, wines and spirits, and services, especially finances, banking and legal services. But India has been hesitant to open up these sectors to European countries and even the UK because these countries already have a dominant position, and this might negatively affect India's domestic industry. Then on the other hand, India's major demand during these negotiations was with regard to free movement of service professionals from India into European countries. Because as we discussed, every year thousands of Indian service professionals travel to European countries including UK on behalf of their companies, and this is very critical for India's core services industries such as information technology. So now, if you look at just the relationship between India and UK, it becomes very clear that the exports of both the countries are predominantly service oriented, and hence this naturally becomes a source for competition and conflict. Because see, just like India, which is hesitant to liberalize these sectors demanded by European nations and UK, the UK on the other hand is very hesitant to provide for free movement to service professionals, and its tough immigration laws has already become a source of major dispute between India and the UK. The immigration laws of UK are so tough that Indian service professionals find it very difficult to acquire a work visa, and even Indian students who study in UK universities find it very difficult to get jobs, and in many cases they are forced to return back to India because of the tough immigration laws. So in this regard, both India and UK would not be willing to budge from their positions, because India has made it very clear that it would be looking to protect the domestic industry from cheaper imports. And this was made quite evident by India recently when it decided to walk out of the RCEP negotiations. Even UK, which is still under the Brexit hangover, there is a strong political sentiment to regain complete control over its national borders, tariff laws, and further reaffirm its political and economic sovereignty. So in this context, India would not be willing to bring down the tariffs in the sectors of automobile, services, wines and spirit. And similarly, the United Kingdom would not be willing to liberalize immigration laws and provide for free movement of people. But despite these economic challenges in their trade negotiations, India and UK happen to be major investors in each other's countries. Britain is one of India's top investors, and India is in fact the second largest investor in Britain and also a major job creator. So this common ground is likely to take the economic relationship forward, and most likely a limited trade agreement might be signed between India and UK, which covers a few critical sectors such as pharmaceuticals, financial technology or fintech, chemicals, defense production, petroleum and food processing. So this in short explains the changing contours of the bilateral relationship between India and the UK. Now let's look at a few articles that can be important for prelims. On page number 1, the Hindu carries an image of the Red Hills Reservoir located near Chennai. This reservoir is primarily fed by rainwater and it helps in fulfilling the drinking water needs of Chennai. So the location of Red Hills Reservoir could be important for a possible map-based question in prelims. Let's look at the next article. States on alert as fear of bird flu grows. This article refers to the major outbreak of avian influenza or bird flu that India is currently dealing with. Such bird flu outbreaks have been reported in multiple states, including Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, and as well as in Kerala. Lakhs of poultry birds, crows, ducks, and geese have lost their lives in the last few days, and this has set off alarm in the country because avian influenza or bird flu is a highly contagious viral disease amongst the birds. The current outbreak being seen in India is caused by influenza type A virus, which particularly affects poultry birds such as chicken, ducks, etc. And it is also known to affect several wild aquatic birds. The influenza type A virus has undergone several mutations over the years, and many strains of the virus can be found around the world. In some cases, this virus causes very mild infection in the birds, whereas in some cases, it can become fatal as well. Wild aquatic birds, such as ducks and geese, they are seen as the natural reservoirs of influenza type A viruses, and they are the key players in the ecology of these viruses, and they play a key role in the transmission of this virus around the world. Because wild aquatic birds, they get easily exposed to the virus, and they also carry the flu around the world, and even asymptomatic birds are known to transmit the virus by shedding the virus through their droppings. And since birds excrete even while they are flying, the virus can spread as an aerosol, and this will further help in the transmission and the spread of the disease. Especially when you look at migratory birds that fly over long distances, they have great potential to transmit the virus around the world, and in some cases, the virus is also known to jump over to mammals such as pigs, horses, cats, dogs, and even to human beings. Such bird flu outbreaks are reported around the world, especially in poultry farms. And one of the best methods to contain the spread of the disease is to cull the infected birds and also the other birds which may or may not be infected in poultry farms that are present in and around the outbreak area. See, even though the bird to human transmission and animal to human transmission of avian influenza is very rare, there have been cases where influenza type A virus has jumped to human beings and resulted in an epidemic. The first such incident happened in 1997 when there was a major outbreak in Hong Kong. This is said to be the first case where humans contracted the influenza type A virus, and it was the H5N1 strain of the virus. Since then, the virus has undergone several mutations including H5N2, H5N8, etc. The current outbreak being reported across multiple Indian states is the H5N8 type. Since the mortality rate of the disease in humans is quite high, it has become a major concern in global public health, and humans are known to contract the disease by coming in close contact with an infected bird that may be alive or even dead. But fortunately, this virus doesn't usually spread from one person to another, and hence it is not as contagious as the other diseases. But however, To reduce the impact of these outbreaks on the poultry industry, the World Health Organization has repeatedly clarified that there is no evidence to indicate that the disease can spread to human beings through poultry food. Because this virus is very sensitive to heat and high temperature, and the process of cooking easily kills the virus. But however, we need to watch out for possible mutations of the virus, because it's very much possible that the influenza type A virus can mutate and alter its shape in order to become more effective in latching onto human cells. This is something that we have already noticed with regard to SARS coronavirus 2. Then according to India's Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, no case of bird flu has been reported in humans as of now. But however, the threat has to be taken very seriously because this disease is particularly known to affect the respiratory tract of humans. In case of birds, the disease affects the gut, whereas in humans, the respiratory tract is primarily targeted by the virus, and it also leads to several symptoms including high fever, cough, sore throat, and sometimes abdominal pain and even diarrhea. As per the Union Health Ministry, the best course of treatment is the administration of antiviral drugs, especially oseltamivir. Then as a precautionary measure, the Health Ministry advises that those who are working closely with poultry, they will have to use PPE kits and also follow basic hygiene and sanitation. There is also a vaccine that is available for H5N1 virus, which was approved by the US FDA in 2007. And the World Organization for Animal Health has devised several vaccination strategies based on this vaccine in order to eradicate the highly pathogenic avian influenza. Now let's look at an article from page number 8. Prime Minister inaugurates Kochi Mangaluru LNG pipeline. This LNG pipeline between Kochi in Kerala and Mangaluru in Karnataka will help in supplying piped natural gas to homes and industries. This project is a part of the ambitious One Nation, One Gas Grid project of the Union government, and it is designed to help India transition into a gas-based economy. Because reliance on natural gas is more cheaper, it's more convenient, and it is one of the few environment-friendly fossil fuels. So the Prime Minister has said that India is looking to become energy sufficient, and the centre is looking to step up investments in the natural gas sector in order to increase the share of natural gas from the current 6% to 15% in India's energy basket by 2030. The Prime Minister has said that the LNG pipeline project under One Nation, One Gas Grid is in line with several other environment-friendly energy initiatives of India, such as increasing the mixing of ethanol to 20% in petrol and the construction of the world's largest hybrid energy plant that combines wind energy and solar energy, which is coming up in the state of Gujarat. The Prime Minister has also pointed out the progress that India has made in the field of LNG, and he has pointed out that between 1978 and 2014, 15,000 kilometers of LNG pipeline was constructed in the country, and post 2014, 16,000 kilometers of LNG pipeline projects have been commissioned by the government. Even the number of CNG stations in the country have gone up significantly, because between 92 and 2014, only around 900 CNG stations were built. But post 2014, around 1500 new CNG stations have been commissioned by the centre. So these LNG pipelines will not only help in supplying natural gas, that is piped natural gas for domestic consumption in homes, but it also serves an industrial purpose, because natural gas can be a critical ingredient in several industries such as fertilizers, chemical industries, petrochemical industries, etc. Now let's look at another article from page number 8. Asian Waterbird Census has taken off to a flying start. This article makes a reference to the ongoing Asian Waterbird Census in several protected areas in coastal Andhra Pradesh, including the Koringa Wildlife Sanctuary. The Koringa Wildlife Sanctuary and even the Koleru Lake are very important wetland ecosystems of India, which houses a number of waterbirds. In this census exercise, experts and volunteers from the Bombay Natural History Society are working with international organizations to conduct the census. And during the census, there is specific focus on the Indian skimmer, which has been listed as endangered on the IUCN Red List. And a healthy population of this bird is found in several important bird areas that have been designated by BirdLife International along the east coast of India, especially in the Godavari belt. See, the Asian Waterbird Census is conducted by an international organization known as Wetlands International. Wetlands International is a global conservation organization involved in the conservation and protection of wetlands and its unique biodiversity. See, waterbirds, they are one of the key indicators of the health of a wetland ecosystem. Hence, in order to gauge the health of the wetland and provide for conservation of its biodiversity, Wetlands International conducts a global exercise known as the International Waterbird Census. Under this global census, several regional censuses are held that covers Asia, Australia, Africa, Europe, West Asia, Caribbean, etc. So the Asian component of this waterbird census is known as the Asian Waterbird Census, and it covers not just Asia but also the Australasia region. This exercise takes off every January, and it's largely led by volunteers and research and conservation organizations, and hence it is a citizen science program. The Asian Waterbird Census was started in 1987 in the Indian subcontinent, and since then it has been expanded to cover a majority of Asia, stretching all the way from Afghanistan to Japan, including Southeast Asia and Australasia. Under this census project, the major flyways or the migratory corridors of the birds are covered. This includes the East Asian Australasian Flyway and the Central Asian Flyway. The data and the information collected through the census is shared with several government and non-government agencies in order to promote the conservation efforts. This data shall be very valuable to Ramsar Convention, to the Convention on Migratory Species, to the CBD Convention or the Convention on Biological Diversity, and as well as to organizations such as BirdLife International, which runs a conservation program for waterbirds known as Important Bird Area Program. Finally, let's take up a couple of mains practice questions. The first question: shock treatments do not work anywhere, be it agriculture, industry or the economy. Many an industry post 1991 shut down due to shock treatment, then resulting in a second deindustrialization. The results in agriculture are likely to be no different in the face of the new farm laws. Do you agree? Critically discuss. The second question: evaluate the changing contours of India-UK relations. Kindly write an answer to these questions and post your answers in the comment section below. So this concludes our discussion for the day. Thanks for watching.